March 1974, 29 years after the end of World War II, had passed. Peace and prosperity had spread everywhere. But on Lubang Island in the Philippines, in the middle of the dense and terrifying jungle, a lone soldier was still fighting the war even today. His uniform had become torn and worn in many places, but his rifle and his sword was still shining. This man was none other than, but was in fact a soldier of the Imperial Japanese Army, an intelligence officer who served during World War II. Even 29 years after World War II had ended, he remained alone, still fighting the war, believing he was fighting against American forces. Against the American forces. Imagine, while the rest of the world was celebrating peace, new cities were being built, and people had already forgotten the old wars. Yet this man was fighting a war completely alone, a war that had actually ended many years earlier. His name was Hiroo Onoda, for whom it was as if time had stopped in 1944. Time had stood still for him. He believed that the enemy was still out there, was lying in wait for him, and the moment he made a mistake, stepped out of the jungle, he would be captured. But this raises an important question. How could a person become so obsessed? For 29 years, alone, without any supplies, completely cut off from the world without help. How could someone live like that? How was that possible? For the rest of the world, World War II ended in 1945, But for him, it didn't truly end until 1974. It finally came to a stop in 1974. Because, in his mind, as long as the last soldier had not surrendered, the war was still going on. The war continues. Was this simply the mindset of one soldier? Was it simply his duty, or was it his stubborn determination that kept him the last prisoner of World War II, made him the last prisoner of World War II? Welcome back. Today's story is one of the most astonishing survival tales. Hiroo Onoda was born in 1922 in a small village in Japan. But this was not the Japan we know today. The Japan that we know today for its robots and technology. This was a Japan that was completely dreaming of conquering the world. In Japan at that time, the moment a child took his first steps, he was taught not just how to walk, but how to serve his country. Were taught to give their lives for the emperor. Onoda's childhood was shaped not by games or carefree days, but by strict discipline. It was an environment where the very idea of surrender did not exist. From an early age, children were taught that dying in battle was more honorable than surrendering after defeat. Onoda was a product of this deeply militarized society, where loyalty meant treating every order from a commander as absolute. But what was the command that forced Onoda to continue fighting World War II alone for 29 years? By 1944, World War II had reached its peak. Japan was at war with the United States and the Allied forces. The situation had become extremely critical, and Japan was steadily losing the war. But the Japanese High Command made one final move. The Japanese High Command made one final strategic move. They decided to teach the Allied forces a lesson by create guerrilla soldiers who could secretly infiltrate enemy territory and carry out sabotage operations. Hiroo Onoda was one of the few carefully selected soldiers chosen for this mission and sent to the Nakano Military School for specialized guerrilla training. This was no ordinary military academy. There, Onoda received intensive instruction in intelligence gathering, espionage, and covert operations behind enemy lines. He was trained to survive alone in the jungle, destroy enemy supply lines, and wear down entire armies through guerrilla warfare. But the most important part of his training was the special instruction given to him by his commanding officer. After completing his training, the commander looked Onoda straight in the eyes and said, "Under no circumstances are you to surrender. Remember, you are not even permitted to take your own life. Whether it takes 3 years or 5, we will return for you. Until then, never let the enemy rest." Those words ignited a fire within Onoda that would not burn out for the next 29 years. For this mission, Onoda was sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines. It was a small island covered with dense jungle. Strategically, it was extremely important to Japan because American and Allied supply routes passed through the area. Hiru Onoda, now serving as an intelligence officer, was assigned a critical mission.